Get ready for the friendliest dice rolling, resource collecting, critter placement game for 1 to 5 players with creature comforts. And here to tell us more about it tonight is Roberta Taylor, the creator of this game. Roberta, how are you doing?
Doing good today, thanks.
Welcome to Kicking Tables. We want to get to know Creature Comforts, an upcoming game. It's coming to Kickstarter on the 17th. In fact, by the time you're watching this, it's already there, so go check it out. But Roberta, why don't you tell us all about your game? What is Creature Comforts?
So, Creature Comforts is a game where players are playing a family of creatures throughout a year, starting in spring, with the sort of the specter of winter's looming. So, what they want to do is put together the coziest den they can for winter.
Winter is
Um,
coming, so I'm hearing it's Game of Thrones. Is that
a little different, a little different. This is the gentlest. The whole intent of the game was to create something that was very cozy. Um, so you don't have very much direct head-to-head competition. It's much more about sort of doing the best you can with what you've got. And so, yeah, like you said in the intro, there's dice, there's worker placement, and then there's like a lot of coziness. You can make soup and bread and have a quilt and stories. So,
nice? Nice. So what's a round of gameplay look like? What are the players doing each round?
so each round, the players, they're going to start by rolling their own personal family dice, which they have two of, and that gives them kind of a sneak peek at what might be coming up this month. Maybe they've looked in the almanac, they have a bit of an idea. And once they know that, then they're going to send their little creatures out to different places on the board
Okay.
in the hopes of gathering different resources. And those different places will yield resources. For example, a spot might be a combination of dice that total less than 5 or that are a pair or different things like that. And then there's a set of common dice that the player who has the worm, because they're the early bird, of course,
Of course.
gets to roll. And those dice are used by everyone. So that's kind of like if you imagine it's the weather, the different things that happen that affect all the creatures in the valley. And then on each player's turn, they use those dice in the way that suits them best. So
Okay.
say I was really gunning for a run of 3. But you wanted, a dice totaling 11 or greater, we might both succeed at that. If any of our creatures can't succeed, because we've used all our dice different ways, they get a lesson learned, which is a token they can use to alter the dice up or down 1 pip on a subsequent round.
Okay.
So there's never like a wasted move.
Oh, nice.
And so you collect resources. You can also go and visit the wise old owl to find out if they have any comforts you might want to build. You can build little like improvements that go around. You might, for example, build a weather vane that will help you in some way, or
Okay.
different upgrades like that. So
Nice, nice. It kind of reminds me as I was looking through the images and just the idea of these creatures building their homes. It just kind of reminds me of like Winnie the Pooh. Like the characters, they all have their own home and they're all furnished and it really got that, it really has that Thousand Acre Woods vibe to it, which is fantastic. I love Winnie the Pooh, so yeah, that's
that's
great. It
awesome.
spoke to me.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what was your inspiration to create this game? Where did you get the original spark to sort of build creature comforts?
So a very long time ago, I lived with my family in a tiny, tiny village on the northwest coast of British Columbia. I could
Okay.
see Alaska from my living room.
Wow.
It was really remote. There was
Okay.
300 people, 2 hours to the nearest store, and it was an indigenous community. And living there, people were still a lot closer to the sort of cyclical nature of the year,
Right.
and that really
Yeah.
got me thinking about seasons and how they impact stuff. And that was sort of the seed that grew into a game that tried to take that idea of if you don't collect cockles in the spring, you don't get cockles for the rest of the year, or like that kind
Right.
of a thing. But also, what's your goal at the end of this? Well, of course, it's to get through winter well. Like that's always kind of when you live somewhere that's cold and remote, it's on your mind a lot. So I think that's where that started. And I realized that telling the story of an Indigenous community, like that's not my story to tell. That's, very interesting and compelling. And I think that, I'd love to see that down the road. But I didn't sort of choose to go that direction. Instead,
Right.
thought, okay, well, how can I take those ideas and put them in something that's a little bit more, wide open to share and not stepping on somebody's culture.
Sure. Yeah, no, that totally
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
With the game being 1 to 5 players, obviously there's a solo mode.
How does the solo mode differ from multiplayer?
It differs very, very little. There's going to be a couple of improvements and stuff that you'll have to pull out because they just don't make quite the same sense.
Okay.
And then we've been tossing around ideas with the folks at Kids Table. They've had some great thoughts on sort of, you're going to have like a scoring matrix that you're going to rank against, did I do better than last time? But also
Okay.
could we put in some sort of goals that might vary from game to game, and let you have a sense of at the end of it, like, not only did I get a great score, but I succeeded in doing this little quest. Or
Okay.
quest might not be the
Okay.
right word. Don't think all like D&D there. Or like, I managed to use 6 things with apples, or I don't know.
Yeah.
They'll have way more details as we work through it. But
So you're not really playing against the game per se. You're playing against your previous score and see how well you can do each round.
yeah, this is, like I said before, this is a very kind, very gentle, very forgiving game where there isn't going to be like something bad that happens and goes awry or anything.
Right.
So
Okay. Awesome.
So, with this being a kids' table game, I've got a 9-year-old myself, and so she's really starting to get into board games. We've been getting her onto Guess Who and stuff like that. Is this something that she'd be able to really pick up and play easily, or is there going to be how's the strategy going to be for the younger kids?
Feedback has been that there's enough luck with different age of kids that if they're old enough to kind of focus for the length of time you would play a game, and you can shorten it up by taking some of the season cards out each season, that they can do quite well. There's space for strategy, but you can also just, oh look, I drew the soup and I needed it because I already had the bread and now I get all these bonus points or something like that, where that can work. So that's been the general feedback we've had, definitely, that it'll work really well.
Did you go about creating this game specifically for kids? Was that your target audience, or did you was it just it happened to fit nicely for kids because of its simpler nature?
I designed the game very much with the idea of playing together as a family.
Okay.
So I know when my kids were young, I was always looking for games that we could play together and that everyone had a good time with. And so that is behind a lot of my designs. I really try to make that experience where the parents are like, yeah, that's good, I could enjoy playing that. And the kids like, yeah, I want to play that. Like, where you're not having one of them coming kind of reluctantly to the table.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. How long have you been working on this game, and was there anything in particular that you found the most difficult thing to work through while developing it?
So on and off, because life has a way of, being life at you. I've been
Getting in
working
the
on this
way.
game for
Yes.
about a decade.
Wow.
But to be fair, it spent some time on a shelf, this and that. I moved between BC and Alberta and changed jobs, and my kids grew up and left home, and all of this. And so it was, I guess, a year and a half ago that I brought it out at the Gathering of Friends to get Helena's feedback from Kids Table. And I was actually, and this is where, it's funny how we look back. I was just like, hey, can you tell me, like, should I even try finishing developing this? Is it any good? And like, we love it. So I should give myself a bit more credit, I guess. But I think developing it, I have a lot of fun with the brainstorming of the details once I've come up with sort of the core of how I want a game to behave.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was some playing with numbers and values and stuff like that, but it didn't have any like moments of just tearing my hair out and wanting to throw it away.
Right.
It was more like I just had a lot of fun thinking of, okay, well, if this is the scene, this is a story I want to tell, how can we pull in elements that tell that story better?
Yeah, that makes sense.
What about expansion plans? Do you have any plans to sort of expand upon the game at all?
At this point, I haven't, but I can easily think of lots of ways that it could be expanded on. So, yeah.
So there's ideas milling about in the future. Maybe we'll see something new come.
Yeah, you never know, but yes, always ideas.
Yeah. Is this your first Kickstarter for a game you've made?
Yes.
So are you excited to finally see it hitting Kickstarter? It must be, how special is it to see your game becoming reality?
You know, it's really cool because my other published games, one was done forever ago, back when you just got a box in the mail and here's your finished game. And the other one that it was done for an ad agency, and they again sent me a finished copy at the end of the thing. So it's really been delightful to be involved in the process of seeing, here's the art as it's coming along, and here's the different things we're playing with, and sort of seeing some of those steps and really getting to sort of look over the shoulder of that whole process.
Right.
And then it's exciting to see the Kickstarter because you get this chance to really engage with people about this game, this space that's been created, and sort of in a much more focused way, I think, than when something would just enter distribution, and if you got a royalty check, you knew it had done well. Like, this is definitely going to be a very different experience than that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So after Kickstarter's done, do you have ideas of other games? Do you have other games you want to create,
Or was this kind of like, this is the game you've been working on for 10 years and not quite sure where you're going to go after this?
So I have one other game that keeps getting pushed back, so hopefully first or second quarter 21. It's with Colossal or whoever owns them. They've changed a little bit over time. So, and then I do also a lot of work with that concept, like serious games or meaningful play. So I actually have several projects nearing or nearing completion. One that's in the middle of being done, and one of those will probably hit Kickstarter. The others are for local organizations. One's for the medical school at the University of Alberta here. So, various projects in all different areas. Because I have these two equal loves, and one is that family space for hobby games, sitting together with your kids or your friends, and the other is using games to talk about big ideas. They both delight me.
Awesome. Well, when you're ready to do your next Kickstarter, we'll be sure to have you back on the show, and we'll talk about that next one. But for now, everybody go check out Creature Comforts. It is on Kickstarter now. Roberta, good luck on the Kickstarter. The game sounds amazing. A lot of fun. We have similar games to this, and we like this kind of just fun, easy to play games. So congrats on getting it to Kickstarter. Good luck with it, and thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. It's been fun. Thanks, everyone, for joining us here, and I hope you're excited about Creature Comforts as I am. Definitely go check out the game, back it on Kickstarter, and while you're here, also please subscribe to the OMG Nexus folks. They are doing an awesome job, and thanks again.